Swipe, earn, and live your best life. So we're having an education conversation. So it's just apt that you tell us about what folks can do when they finished high school.
Yes, and you talk about high school graduates, fresh graduates from high school who want to join our universities, and ALEX Pathway is giving them an opportunity to study in some of the best universities across the world. And Alex actually tells you that the deadline is on the 21st of April 2025. So let's hurry up and get applying, because through this pathway, you are able to join these universities and improve on yourself. And through Alex Pathway, you'll have an opportunity to study at global universities with options for in-person, hybrid, and online. So you can travel to these universities. You can join hybrid, sometimes inside, sometimes you're doing it online, or you can just do it online altogether, depending on the university that you have chosen. And to gain access, you'll complete the comprehensive 8-month ALEX pathway, and through this pathway, the 8-month process, you're able to give you skills such as leadership, entrepreneurship, equally communication, designed to prepare you for successful university application. So you come, you get trained, you're told which one best suits you. We train you on matters to do with entrepreneurship, so that by the time you're getting there, you are ready to go. And to get these, you go to bit, that is bit.ly/ALEX pathway SFM. That is bit.ly/ALEX pathway SFM, and all that information you'll get there, and will finally land you where? To these universities globally.
Absolutely. And I think that just helps us segue into the conversation that we'll be having this hour, when we are looking at the education debacle in the country at the moment. Joining us this hour is Dr. Maina Wa Gaithoro, who is the Secretary General of the Parent Association in Kiambu County, as well as Michael Soy, who is the UNSA Head of Public Service. I want to say good morning to both of you. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
And welcome to the hot seats of the Situation Room today. Glad to have you here. We'll be looking this morning about the education crisis and what's ailing our universities at the moment. We did see a number of pronouncements come from the courts yesterday, but we'll get into that properly. CT normally is here. Today he had to go for an assignment, but then he's left his proverb with Dennis. There's a proverb that he gives us from a different African country every week rather. And so today, Dennis will share that with you, and then we'd like you to interpret that and tell us what it means.
Yeah, and you see, CT is a teacher, and I'm a good student.
Very good.
So he delegated the duties. So today I'm wearing his shoes, which are big to feel. But anyway, here we are. So the proverb of the day today comes from the Sahel region, but the Coup Belt pretty much. The country is Islamic Republic of Mauritania. And the proverb is, before you eat, open your mouth. Before you eat, open your mouth. How would you interpret that?
I think there's a lot of wisdom in the said proverb, because of course you cannot eat with your mouth shut. And of course it also connotates on many other daily doings. Like you cannot project anything before you have actually thought very well, before you have actually calibrated the pathway of it. And when we go back to education, it is also like we should also open our mouth before we make any decision that affects student, parents, the poor, and the rich.
The rich. Well put.
Daktari has put it so well, and I'd just like to add something small.
Yes.
Eating is taking an action. And opening your mouth is now the preparation in terms of communication and openness before we take the action. Yes.
Okay. So, as we get into this, I mean, education spans so much in terms of the spectrum. So whether we're looking at, the very basic form of education, going into primary school, and then getting, as we get more advanced, into secondary school, and then beyond that into university, across the spectrum. And it looks like, we've been dealing with issues across the wide range. But even as we look at some of the pronouncements that have been made by the courts, and if we look at what happened before that, is that we did see that the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, then after realizing that there was this issue, the president said, okay, you guys go around the country and find out what we're going to do about this thing. And one of the things that they came up with is a funding model, which then had bans, and that's how people were essentially going to, pay for their university education. And then we saw, well, the petition was taken to court. It was declared unconstitutional. But then we saw that, the Court of Appeal came back yesterday and said, you know what, actually, let's stay that judgment that deemed it unconstitutional and let us have, essentially students going back to school and applying. But there seems to be a deeper problem, and I think that's what we're trying to look at today. And so let's hear from you overall what you think this particular issue looks like with an overview. Let's start with you, Dr. Terry.
Thank you very much. I think before the old system was dismantled, I think there must have been something that went afoot, because it could have been interrogated properly and see what was going wrong and what was wrong. Because I think to us as parents, we thought the old system was okay because it was not discriminatory. It was giving money to the boom, or the money that is supposed to be given for education to everybody equally. And of course, there was also the bursary factor from the Minister of Education, and it was distributed to the most needy student. The new system persecutes the student to say where they come from. So as parents, we find it a bit discriminatory because students shy away or shy off to talk about poverty of their parent. It stigmatizes student. Therefore, student at a certain pace, they give the wrong information. They try to insinuate as if their parents were also not very poor, and that's where we first went wrong. So I think the old system could have furnished well. It could have worked better for everyone, because what we think is that everybody, according to our constitution, and every student have the right to access education. Everyone. So I think I don't want to say, because the quota is there now, it says that if you are not well funded, you can appeal. By the time you are saying you are giving people a leeway of appeal, is because there are a lot of gaps and there are a lot of misgiving in what you are doing. So I think rather than doing that, I think we should at once either furnish the new model of funding and make sure that the poor are identified from primary schools. If they are identified from primary schools, then we shall not be, draining anybody in this country.
Michael, let's go to you and get an overview of what your thoughts are about what is currently happening at the university level when education is concerned.
What happens is, from the start, we look, what is the genesis of this problem? Why do we have the new funding model in the first place? It's because of the ballooning numbers of enrollments of students into the universities. And the capitation that we've always had from the government has been minimal. And the government had to look through and ask ourselves, how are we going to meet this problem? And that is what led to the introduction of the new funding model. However, the new funding model has had its own problems, right from the means testing instrument, how are we able to gauge what the student is doing. But when the dons in these fields come back and say, let us revert back to the differentiated unit cost, we are not heading anywhere. And when the stakeholders and the people who are concerned in making these decisions do not engage with the students, with the parents, and with the lecturers in the university, we are not basically heading anywhere. So the big question we should be asking ourselves is, how do we refine the new funding model to ensure that it meets the needs of the students, the needs of the parents, and the needs of the universities?
So, Michael, you are in the student leadership
yes.
at the university. So, in terms of, let's compare both for the sake of comparison, the old funding model and the new funding model. What
Yes.
are the students that you lead saying with regard to what worked for them?
With what works, it's not about what the student is saying, but with what can work and what the documentation would say. And having gone through the documentation. You'll find that in the DUC, that's the differentiated unit cost, the government will take care of 80% of the cost of the program, and then the parent will take care of 20%. But there was the deficiency. Before the introduction of the new funding model, you realize that the government only remitted 48% of what they are supposed to submit. So there's a deficit of around 32%, and this 32% is what have been causing now the skyrocketing deaths in public universities. On this other hand, when we come now to the new funding model, they are trying to re-engineer how they are financing university education. So if I would think from the shoes of just a student, I would basically say, let us revert back to DUC and everything will be fine. But that will be at the detriment of the university. And in the next couple of months and years, I will be transitioning from a student to an administrator or a lecturer in the university. I'll be having to deal with that problem of the debt when I go there. What do? We need to catch this problem before it gets there.
So, Daktari, when you talk about education in the country, that is a right that every other Kenyan child should be able to access. Now, he talks in terms of the old model, the way it was and the deficits that were there. But then again, we base that argument off the budgets allocated to the ministry and the fact that even the disbursement of these funds that go to universities have all been budgeted for by the government, and by government failing to disburse this money, it is the government itself that is fighting itself. So when you come to where we are right now, what should be done?
I think something is wrong in the ministry, because prioritizing education has not been taken with the seriousness it's supposed to be taken with. And I think everything else has been prioritized to the cost and to the expense of education. As parents, we feel so disgusted that the government that has been chosen by the people is discriminating upon the people who chose upon them. And this is very bad democracy. And I think democracy should start with education. In developed countries, and I don't want to say that we are not developed. Of course, we are not at the level of any other very high developed countries like America and USSR. But I think we should emulate, because we send people to go and benchmark in other countries. I don't know how they've been marked on this, because the benchmarking is not very well attested with us, because our student, our children, as a parent association, have been discriminated upon, especially the parent from the student from the poor. And the student from the poor have the right to education, and you find that people who have been prioritized are people from who is who, the political class, people who are well-to-do. And this is a gluttonous way of actually awarding our education system. And also, we think that something should be done better. The government can do better on this. And what I said, I would revert to this. Why don't we identify our poor in bursaries? We identify our poor and see that there is the poor who receive the money when they require to pay it. Especially now the people from very disadvantaged families. And we have mechanisms to know that, because we know who is who, and we know where the poor live. We know people from the slums, sometimes they can't afford, and they are not prioritized. And sometimes you find there are people even now who have not joined the universities. They have not joined the universities, not because we don't have these elders, village elders who can identify, because they are also compromised. So I think it's until when education shall be prioritized and made independent and funded first before any other development programs. So I think it's still the government, the back lies with the government to prioritize education, and to make sure that there's no discrimination, and to make sure that, as it is the policy, that this policy is articulated by making sure that everybody access education, irrespective of their status.
Michael, do you think that there's an understanding across board about what needs to happen across board, from those who practice, those who sit in authority over education circles? Is there an understanding of the processes that need to take place for there to be simulation?
An understanding. And I would like to ask ourselves here today, when we talk about the government, what do we imply? When people refer to the government, they would like to refer to the executive or the presidency. But University of Nairobi is a parastatal of the government, and any officer working in the University of Nairobi is the government by itself. So let me trickle down this conversation to now what is ailing universities without necessarily blanketing everything to the presidency or the parliament or something of that sort, or trying to blame certain individuals. I believe that is why I'm here. Because I am a student leader in the university, I'm also accountable to the public. The first thing that is affecting our universities is leadership capacity. Are the people who are in these universities, do they have the capacity to lead these universities? What is the downfall of Moy University? What is the downfall of Egerton University? Basically, leadership. You'll find that the appointments of the highest people serving in the university, from the VC, DVC, AA, and everything, to director finance and everything, initially, the dons in the university have made it to themselves that the university belongs to the professors. I am, for example, a professor, let's say in anatomy. How will I be able to lead a state corporation to profitability? I am a don in engineering, perhaps structural engineering. How will I be able to deal with the finances of the university if I am entrusted with the docket of human resource and finance? I am a don in botany or zoology. How will I be able to deal with the human resource structure of the university? And that is why we are calling for professionalization of the running of this institution. So that whenever I have someone who has a CPAK and is dealing with the finances of the university, they will be able to know what is happening. But if a professor comes there and says, I am a professor, and he is from architecture and wants to lead that fact, how will he be able to lead the university? And that is where the first downfall has been. That is why the Council of University of Nairobi has been trying to institutionalize reforms to professionalize the running of the universities. Let me go to issue number 2, which is now the funding. The funding from the government isn't sufficient and everyone is complaining. Our universities, Moi University, University of Nairobi, JKUAT, they have a great asset base to billions of shillings. Why can't we use the assets that we have to generate resources? I'll give you a reason why we are not using them. Because when the Council of the Universities tries to do something with the assets of the university, they don't run everywhere heckling and saying the council wants to steal university land, they want to lease out this property, yet they haven't done any contribution towards resource mobilization in the university. It's so unfortunate when the dons of the university are just there to draw from the university. But if you ask them, what input are you bringing on to the university? So can we get a clear-cut thing of, if, for example, you came to the university as a teacher, as a professional to teach, can we focus on that line? And then if you're coming to the university as a professional and as an administrator, can we give the administrators of the university to guide in terms of the direction towards sustainability of the university? So there have been manufactured wrangles, for example, in our great university, that, oh, the council is not working, there is wrangles here, there is unrest here, but it's manufactured by a few individuals who are a part of the system in the university, and now external forces who are coming to create chaos. In amidst all these chaos that are happening in university, they thrive. And that is why now, and the people who should be able to clarify this thing, because of the stature of the office they hold, they can't come to Spice FM to come and elaborate on this issue. Have you ever seen the chair of council anywhere in the media talking about the running of university? Have you ever seen the VC, the current VC, anywhere? But left, right, and center, you'll find some people, specific individuals from unions, a specific union in University of Nairobi, not talking to us about the solutions to this problem, but saying the problem is with Ndu, the problem is with Daktari, the problem is with this. Where are we headed?
But unions, one would argue, is there to represent the issues of their members.
Of their members and not necessarily the students, unless it is a student union.
Very nice.
And even as we have this conversation, you raised pertinent questions. Yes, leadership. But then again, when you talk about leadership of universities, what is the role of the government in making sure that these universities run? Because universities do not operate in its own. The government has a critical role in terms of allocation, disbursement, in making sure that these universities do run. When you talk about dons, and let's talk about the unions, these unions have collective bargaining agreements with the government in terms of their pay, and when that fails to happen is when they start speaking, rightfully so. And when you ask about universities, lecturers are giving back to the university, theirs is to teach. What else do they do other than meet the mandate, which is to teach the students? What else do you want them to do?
What else do I want them to do? I want them to stick in the classrooms and follow up on the missing marks and ensure they have done. But now...
And not raise complaints when their CBAs have not been
It's okay. It's okay. So they have now shifted and wanting to entrench themselves in the administrative side. And that is why the reforms in University of Nairobi that were institutionalized or initiated by Professor Julia Ojambo when she was the chair of council is what has salvaged the situation, because it asked around 200 lecturers who had moved from class to administrative tasks to, hey, can you go back to class so that we can improve the student to faculty member ratio? It's okay for the members of the union, and especially WASU that I'm referring to here, to represent the interest of their members. But when WASU rushes to court to sue council,
who rightfully handles their business,
the question here is, what are you suing them over?
Over.
You're suing them over the administrative functions of council. The council is doing its work, but you're going there to say it's usurping the powers of so and so and so and so. So as we build on this conversation, it's important to know it's whose role to do what and where.
But I think the government has also interfered very much in the choosing of the dons and the VCs, and there's a lot of vested political interest in the choosing and the selection. Because I think what you're saying is right. If it went in line with the professionalism, then we could not have any antagonism. But now we find that the government of the day has vested interest in the VC's office. For what reason, I don't understand. Because if the wrangles that were in our university recently, we saw the public domain when the Professor Kiama Gitahi was almost fought by almost everybody, and you can see they also go tribal. They go agri, they go tribal, they don't go professionalism, they don't go educational way. So I think that is where we are losing a mark. The government should stop politicizing the offices of the dons, the offices of the VCs. Let the university shows the way he is saying. Let us use professionalism. Because if we choose professionalism and we choose an accountant to be the VC, then we know that the accounting of the university will be okay. As he said, if you antagonistically chose a physiology student to be the VC of the University of Nairobi, and of course they have no knowledge of or no know-how on accounting, let's also get the best candidate to be the VC of an institution in Kenya, and this will put everything right, because you'll not be.
You seem to think that if you have the right people at the head, that all of these issues that people are focusing on right now that are bringing problems will be sorted. If you had the right VC at the University of Nairobi, would we still, or any other university for that matter, would we then not have a funding model problem?
You have said
it's not
is
about
that the case? Because before we go to the break, I just want us to tackle that.
It's not about
is it the person who sits at the helm who insists then and makes sure that these other problems that are being faced by the system today will be sorted out?
It's not even about the helm alone, but the overhaul of the whole system, from the VC, DVC, AA, the the chief operations officer, director finance, director handling the students' hostel and everything. Professionalism. And then when you talk about the interference of the government, let's not make it a movers blanket. For example, the running of the affairs of University of Nairobi. The council does its work, and then the Ministry of Education, that is the CS, issues a revocation letter to his appointment. Why should you chase someone who is bringing reforms in the university? Anytime when something right is about to be done, you chase the council. Is the problem the council? You've chased them around 15 times. In a span of from 2020 to 2025, we've had 3. Professor Julia Ojambo, Professor Were, then Professor Anangwe. So there are some people in government. I want to start with the Ministry of Education because they issued the revocation letter and the courts have issued stay orders for Professor Anangwe to come back. There are other forces in the government and also in the parliament. You find that the parliament comes to University of Nairobi, says that the education committee is coming to sit in the chambers of University of Nairobi to look into this problem which is happening in University of Nairobi. But at the end of the day, there isn't any amicable solution that they come up with. Are they coming to sit for their per diems? That is what I'm starting to think about. What interest do they have, say that they cannot provide solutions to these things? As I sit here, I've gone through the documents and I'm starting to think this is the right way to go. But they would not want us to go on the right way because in this chaos, they do thrive. And we must talk because the chair of council will not come and talk here because you'll say he's defending himself.
Okay.
The VC will not come and talk because you'll say he's defending himself. But we as the major stakeholders, as the students, we need to canvass these things. Then someone who feels that Michael Soy is saying something that is out of the Universities Act of 2012 of University of Nairobi Charter, let him come to this show and we flip page by page
and see what it actually
is
says.
The responsibility. But when Dr. Maloba Wekesa was here last year, he talked about the composition of the council. That is not where the problem is.
Okay, well, let's take a break at this point and come and now look into where the problem is. We keep talking about having a solution-oriented conversation. I think it is absolutely necessary because we can lament about issues. However, in order to find a solution, you have to look at the problem. And so let's come and look at a little bit more about what that is. And then fix that to some of the things that we're seeing playing out in the public today. Michael Soy is the University of Nairobi Students Association Head of Public Service, and Dr. Maina Wagaidhore is the Secretary General of the Parents Association of Kiambu County. We're having a conversation this morning about what's ailing our universities in an education crisis. It's 23 minutes to 10. Don't go. We'll be back after this.
Hello and welcome to Health and Wellness, where we explore new health trends, wellness tips.
In the mental space, we never ask what is wrong. We always ask what happened.
We feel the pain of our patients.
And ways to just embrace a happier and healthier life. Small changes can make a very big difference to your overall health.
For this intervention, we don't use any general anesthesia.
Oh, really?
So the patient is awake with us, talking to us throughout the procedure.
If you start having chest pain and you're sweating a lot and you're not doing any physical activity, that's a very ominous sign that you're actually having a heart attack.
To be honest, we've actually done a CS with Mulika Muizi. You're bringing Muliquad for you to remove that baby.
So let's incorporate these tips to our daily routine just to ensure our immune system is healthy and strong.
Join me, Zaitun Ali, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Health and Wellness.
Brookside Probiotic Yogurt, you can use it in any form. Add it to your smoothies, drink it off the glass, and you will be able to enhance that healthy digestive system.
Today, M-Pesa's impact extends way beyond transactions.
We set up M-Pesa Foundation, allowing communities to live a better life.
M-Pesa Foundation wamenisimamia kila kitu.
We do fulfill community needs.
M-Pesa isn't just a service, it's a movement.
Watch how M-Pesa Foundation is transforming communities this Thursday at 8:55 p.m. only on KTN.
Up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 21 minutes to the top of the hour, having this education conversation this morning with Michael Soy, who is the University of Nairobi Student Association Head of Public Service, and Dr. Mainawa Gaithori is the Secretary General of the Parents Association in Kiambu County. And so when we're looking at what's ailing our universities, so if we don't look at the problem, we can't get the solution, right? And so we're saying that it doesn't matter if you give a fantastic solution on the outside, whether you have a great funding model, whether you have folded help to join something else with the university's fund. If you don't have the correct structures in place at the university level, whether it's University of Nairobi, whether it's Moore University, whether it is a private university, we're saying that if you don't have the correct structures in place, whatever you bring
will
not help.
Exactly.
So where is the problem in the structure?
The problem, when you talk about the structure of the university, we have the council at the topmost, at the apex. Mm-hmm. Then we have the Senate. Let me talk about those two. The council is the one responsible for the managing of the university, and they should give directions of how things should go. When council gives direction on how things should be done in the university, the people and the cartels who are entrenched in the system feel rattled, and then they now go on a spree of revocation or removal of the members of the council.
Why would you say
and the
that?
chair. A very good example is what happened in University of Nairobi, Faculty of Business and Management Sciences. 5 people who are now in EACC, they have run dry the coffers of that faculty. That is Dominic Murage.
No, don't mention names.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's in public domain, but I stand guided not to mention. But they have stolen from the university, and they are
Allegedly.
in EACC. Allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
And the chair of council now comes in and says that we are not, you are supposed to go and leave so that we can investigate you, and then appoints other people. The powers of employment in the university lies with the council of University of Nairobi. But now, the VC and the professors come shouting that the chair of council is usurping the powers of the VC. So if we don't deal with people who are stealing from university to tunes of millions of shillings, where are we going to be as a university? The other thing will be now, the people who are making noise all around, they are parties to this. One of the people who've been alleged to have stolen is a treasurer in the body that is defending the welfare. So by defending the welfare of our members, do we defend someone who's stolen from the little coffers of the university? Where will we be headed to? Can we let the council and the leadership of the university do its work? And then now, when these people are asked to justify their actions, they now run to parliament, they run to the ministry and mobilize for the removal of the person who is following up on the right thing to be done in the university. Can we let each and every person do their work? And if anyone is usurping whose power, we have avenues to be able to address that. So I cannot say that my brother here, Daktari, is usurping my powers, and then I will chase him away before I give him a listening ear. I will tend to ask myself, why was it so quick for the removal of this gentleman from the office that he holds? Then later on, I become vindicated when the court says, hey, what you've done is wrong. He needs to be back, and he's back in office. And the appeal that now we'll be calling and asking is, can we let the council do its work? when it does it work in the right manner, the universities will have a particular direction and it will be moving in the right trajectory. Yes.
Doctor, what are the problems in universities as you speak today?
Basically, as I maintain, they are political. And what I would like to say is that he speaks with insight, but from the outside, we see the another hand. We see the third eye and another hand. The third hand instigating and forcing universities, dons and universities leadership in a certain direction. Finances cannot be ruled aside because it's a country where everybody want to amass money for themselves. Apart from myself, and you find that they don't know. I remember in one of it's amazing, or it is also true that when sister died, he said that his hands would have been moved outside the coffin to ascertain to everybody that nobody takes anything when they go away from this world. In very good countries, universities are run by the universities themselves. There's no political head. And that's the way it's supposed to be. These are educationists, and let educationists learn the universities, let professionals learn the universities, and then these problems will cease once and forever. But as long as the political elite are always putting ahead and they are trying to maneuver the leadership of the university, we shall not have our education light. And we shall always have our academic institutions listed low in the world over list of academicians. And I think sometimes you find out that even our neighboring countries don't want to employ somebody from Kenya because of the languages that are brought in by the political elite. So I think the current difficulties in leadership in our universities are instigated by our political elite. They are instigated by the Minister of Education, and the universities should be let to be an authority. If the universities are an authority on its own, then we can question them from outside, and then they should be every person should be allowed to castigate on the university. Why are you going wrong? Because this is your money. And then the government, if on the bursaries, the money that they give the capitation to the university should be given on the right time, so that the bursaries that are supposed to be awarded by the Minister of Education to go right to the poor people should be given to the poor. And I think if we do that, then our education is going to be right, our universities are going to thrive, and we are going to all to be happy all the way to our economic advancement, because we shall have the right people, the right workforce. And then again, also in the intake of the university, we should be right. We should do the right things at the right time.
What role, and I think this for both of you, what role do you think that the Ministry of Education, which essentially is the vanguard of a lot of these institutions that we see playing out, what role do they play in making sure that there's a proper running of these institutions at that level?
As of now, they haven't done their role, because what we have seen is interference with the way things are being run in the university. The other thing about now, the resources, which is main thing in the university, or the funding, we need to look for alternative sources of income for the university. And once we cried to the government's idea, the government says that we're bringing on board a chancellor who has a global reach, who can be able to attract partners to the university and do a good resource mobilization. When the chancellor came in, that is Professor Patrick Vercoen, he started by doing town halls and engagements with the stakeholders, that is the students. He did a number of 11 town halls in the 11 faculties, then met the members of the unions in the university and the staff. After meeting them, he drafted with the council a 24-month transformational agenda, 8-point agenda, which was adopted by the cabinet, and that is the government. So the government adopts, and this is something that is going to help the university, but the next moment, someone runs to court again to stop the same thing that we've been crying for to help us as a university. So on one hand, we're saying, government, kindly help us. When the government comes on this hand, they say, no, we never wanted you to come in this particular manner. So most of the people in the university are speaking from double speak space. The other thing is, they say there is rankles in the University of Nairobi, and all positions are in acting capacity. When the Council and Public Service Commission advertises the positions so that they can be filled substantively, they also come back again and say, oh, no, the problem is you haven't done it correctly, and let it still continue being done in the same manner that it has been. So one hand, you don't want acting capacity. On the other hand, you don't want the position to be filled substantively. So where do you stand?
Which brings the question: when you talk about the appointment of chancellors to these universities,
yes,
the exercise of appointment, should it be done without consultation of key stakeholders? And with this, I mean the dons, the councils. Talk about the Senate. Should it be done with consultation with the stakeholders who have been there, who understand the university, and who equally are playing their role in ensuring that the universities are run right? And I think I'll bring that to the Daktari, because it's mentioned something to do with political interference. Because today, you remember Professor Ayiro from University of Eldoret, how he was frog marched from the office by politicians out of that, because for some weird reason, he was considered not to be one of them. Tribalism, politics, playing into appointment and people who hold these offices. Now, when it comes to appointment of VCs and people who run these universities, should this be a consultative effort with the dons together with the Senate and the Council in making sure that universities are run right? Or should it just be left in the open?
In fact, even it should be put in the public domain, and there should be a public participation, because we also know them. We know where they come from. We know where the dons come from. But we should stop trivializing and embracing the university selection of dons. And we know why people are selected from this region. And we know who has the hand in that. It's the political gerrymandering and the political maneuvers, the political circus in this country. And we know who is benefits finally with the funds that is collected from the poor, from the university. We know. And we with a lot of authority, we say that it should revert back to the communities, it should revert back to the society, and our constitution is very clear how this should be chosen. There should be no political interest. But as long as this country is maneuvered and controlled by the political right, we shall not head anywhere in education. So I think it is important that now we revert back to professionalism, we revert back to seeing that the right person is put in place, and of course their tenure is respected. Is respected, because you find that as he says that rightly, that they are moved. This council is moved because it's not answerable to, or it is not singing the political tune of this time. So I find it so difficult to say that we have universities that could deliver. And that's why you see, if you go to the listing of honor in the whole world, you find our universities lag behind that. You attest to that. They lag behind. Why? Because professionalism is not followed. Value addition to persons who are elected is not put in place. So you find out that who gets the receiving it? It is us, the parents. But by the end, it is our student that we are investing in the universities. It is us who gets drained. It is us who, finally, these students come back to us jobless, because value has not been added in their education, and so they cannot compete in the job market competitively. So I think politics should be put aside, and the right procedures is that a public participation before a don is elected in the universities should be followed, and the due course. And then because we should be selfless.
Sure.
And the selfless people are the people who make the universities become very valuable and competitive.
When we have education conversations in this room, oftentimes we think about, the things that we see from a policy level. And when we say policy, we're talking at government. So those are the things that we often talk about. We say, whether we're looking at lower levels of education, and we talk about capitation, and we whinge about that a lot. And then we talk about, the fact that the quality of education having dropped, we whinge about that a lot. And we say, well, the ministry has a lot of work to do. And then we talk about, things like education officers that should be around the country making sure that things are actually in place. We whinge a lot. And then we place firmly the blame, squarely, at the policymakers, which, yes, is ministry. And we talk about the fact that, yes, you have proper development, you have proper curriculum development, you have that. That happens because we know curriculum development is not just for lower levels education. It goes across board. And we say, yeah, that's done very well. But we often ignore what we are bringing up this morning. that inward structures seem to have a rot, that no matter what you do at the policy level, that if the rot at the inward structure is allowed to continue like in the manner in which you explain it to, then we can be crying for policy to change or to get better. But if the inward part of it is not dealt with, we can be here for years.
Add on what you're saying either. And that is why when my friend is questioning about the selection of these people, I will tell you, and if you ask any member of the Senate in University of Nairobi, the appointment of Professor Patrick Vakoen, it went through the entire process, and these don't were part of it because they sit in the Senate. And that is why I actively advocated for the removal of the previous VC in University of Nairobi, and it brought some certain sanity in the university. And now what is happening in Faculty of Business with the looting, these are cronies of the former vice chancellor. So we started from the head and we are now descending to each and every part, because in University of Nairobi I can go into the procurement office and know how things are. I can converse with a member of staff in confidence and tell me what is happening. So right now we as the students of University of Nairobi, we aren't crying to the government anymore, but we are taking now this to our hands. And then the way, if we find that you are incompetent, I promise them that we will come for you and we'll tell you kindly leave so that the investigation can be done.
Yeah.
In terms of policy, the act is very clear. The charter is very clear. The statutes of the university, they are very clear on whose role it is to do what. But it's now the person who is seated in that office. And the way my brother has said, the influence from the political elites. And this time around, we're not blanketing to see that is the political elites alone. It's a specific person who is making the phone calls to university or emails and so to curtail the process. So we'll not be doing the government thing. We'll be saying it's her who is making or messing up with the system, and we're telling you, we're giving you a last warning. Can you kindly leave the university and do the thing that you are supposed to do? Because that will be the direction to go, and we'll not be coming here up and again trying to review, was the process followed? If, for example, I give someone to be the chair of council and he knows what needs to be done according to the act, he will promote the don if they have made the requirements. But if you say that we need a professor or a what to be the chancellor of university or the VC, yet did not have the capacity. Look at the corporation, for example, KCP Group. Who is the former MD of KCB?
Joshua Igaro.
Is he a professor?
No.
Is he a doctor?
He's a money man.
Money man. But he has been able to run the corporation to profitability. Do you want to tell me if that man is given to run University of Nairobi, he cannot steer it to the next level? But now you want to buy him by saying, no, we want a professor who supervises this and this and this. So it's a time we look at this conversation and decide this is the best way to go without now saying university ni yetu. It's for us as professors. In the next couple of years, I will be there in that professorship. Will I be one to say now, this is mine alone and want to run it, yet I do not have the capacity to lead it? And I am not bringing anything on the table for the university. I'm just drawing from it. I want to move from class to the administrative side so that I can add more allowances. Is that the direction we want to go? Definitely no. And the moment we raise these questions and people now start talking, because the moment the chair of council talks in this particular manner I'm talking, or the VC, it will be like, you don't want to give the money to the lecturers. You want to do it by yourself alone.
What should we be looking to? Because, our time is coming to a head. But it just seems like there's so much, But what should we, briefly from both of you, what should we be looking to say that we can actually we looked at what the problem is, what should the solutions be?
We should prioritize education because education has not been prioritized in this country. And I don't know where our political leaders went through. I don't know whether they are being blind on how the university used to be during the previous administrations. But I want to also say very, very authoritatively that there's no there's no administration in this country that never encroached into the leadership of the universities because of the power and the money that's needed and the numbers. Students have been used previously to fall in a certain political lineage, and it's clear. And we always have found that leaders of the student union or leaders of the student union have always gone in a certain direction politically. I do not mention names, but you find that this is and also the students should not be politicized. I of course I know my brother is almost my son, and he might not have enough money. But we until when we find that money does not lead. Money is good, but money is when it used to coerce you, then you become corrupt, and the corruption begins with leadership of the student from the beginning, because you started getting handouts.
Yeah.
So I should also try to tell the student, let's not get handout. Let us always get focused, because one time we shall find ourselves in the same quagmire if we don't
change it now.
Change now.
And for you, quickly, Michael.
Let the dons of the university do the work that they signed up for in the university. Professionalism in each and every sector is key. Just one last thing. We have elections coming up in the University of Nairobi very soon. They have been stopped by the courts because the so-called dons aren't doing the right thing.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. That's very clear.
A lot of work.
And solutions are not going to be whittled down to 1 hour, but we're thanking you so much for making those insights clear to us today. Dr. Maina Wagaithoro is the Secretary General of Parents Association in Kiambu County, and the University of Nairobi Student Association Head of Public Services, Michael Soy. They've been here with us this morning, looking at this crisis in education and what's ailing universities. These conversations must continue. Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, the Situation Room. We'll meet again tomorrow.